Hiroshima, Japan, August 6, 1945. At exactly 8:15 a.m., a single bomb turned an entire city into dust. In an instant, Hiroshima was gone, engulfed by a fireball hotter than the surface of the sun. Tens of thousands were vaporized. The world entered the nuclear age. Yet one question has haunted historians ever since. Why Hiroshima and Nagasaki and not Tokyo, Japan's very heart? The war that wouldn't end. By the summer of 1945, the Second World War had reached its final brutal act. In Europe, Hitler was dead and Germany had surrendered. But across the Pacific, Japan continued to fight with desperate ferocity. American forces had clawed their way across the ocean from Iwo Jima to Okinawa at staggering cost. Each island was defended to the last man. U.S. military planners warned President Harry S. Truman that an invasion of Japan's home islands could kill over 1 million Allied soldiers and several million Japanese civilians. Truman faced a terrible choice: prolong the war with invasion, or use a weapon unlike any the world had ever seen. The secret project that changed everything. Under the utmost secrecy, American scientists were racing against time. Their mission, the Manhattan Project, produced the first atomic weapons in human history. Directed by General Leslie Groves and physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer, the project culminated in the Trinity test, conducted on July 16, 1945, in the New Mexico desert. Witnesses saw a blinding explosion, rising into a mushroom cloud that reached the stratosphere. The weapon worked, and soon, 2 bombs were ready for combat. Little Boy, a uranium-based device, and Fat Man, a plutonium bomb. The next question: where would they strike? The Target Committee's decision. In May 1945, a select group of military officers and scientists known as the Target Committee gathered at Los Alamos, New Mexico. Their job was to choose Japan's atomic targets. They used cold, precise criteria. The target should be a vital military city. It should be large enough for maximum effect, and it should have been spared from earlier bombing raids to clearly show the bomb's destructive power. 4 cities emerged: Hiroshima, Kokura, Niigata, and Kyoto. Tokyo, Japan's capital, was not on the list. Why Tokyo was spared? By mid-1945, Tokyo was already a burned skeleton of a city. Months earlier, on March 9-10, 1945, more than 300 American B-29 bombers unleashed a wave of firebombs in Operation Meeting House. Fueled by wooden homes and dry winds, the city turned into a hell of fire. Over 100,000 people died in one night, a greater death toll than Hiroshima's atomic strike. Half of Tokyo was gone. Factories, rail lines, and entire districts were erased. There was nothing left to test. For the U.S. military, Tokyo no longer served as a clean experiment site. The purpose of the atomic strike was not only military victory, but also scientific observation and psychological shock. To measure its true impact, the bomb needed an untouched canvas. Tokyo, simply put, had already been destroyed too well. The political calculation, but strategy went beyond destruction. American leaders worried that annihilating Tokyo, the seat of the emperor, the war cabinet, and foreign embassies, could plunge Japan into total chaos. If the government were wiped out, who would surrender? Who would even be left to receive the message? President Truman's advisors concluded that hitting other major cities would send a clearer warning powerful enough to force surrender, but leaving Japan's central command structure intact. Tokyo was spared to ensure Japan could still hear the ultimatum. Hiroshima, the first target. Hiroshima, on the other hand, met every condition perfectly. It was a city of over 300,000 people, home to the Japanese Second Army headquarters, and filled with military factories. The city was largely unscathed by conventional bombing, making it an ideal testing ground for the new weapon. On the morning of August 6, 1945, the B-29 bomber Enola Gay, piloted by Colonel Paul Tibbets, approached Hiroshima from 31,000 feet. At precisely 8:15 a.m., the crew released Little Boy. 43 seconds later, an orange flash, brighter than anything ever seen. A shockwave flattened the city. 70,000 people died instantly. By the end of the year, the death toll had risen to over 140,000 from burns, radiation, and collapse. Nagasaki, the second and final warning. Even after Hiroshima, Japan's military refused to surrender. The U.S. prepared a second strike. On August 9, 1945, another B-29 bomber, Boxcar, carried Fat Man toward its primary target, Kokura, but heavy clouds covered the city. The crew diverted to their secondary target, Nagasaki. At 11:02 a.m., the bomb detonated 500 meters above the city. The explosion killed 40,000 people instantly, and tens of thousands more would die from radiation in the weeks to come. This time, the shock was too great to ignore. 6 days later, on August 15, 1945, Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's surrender. World War II was finally over. The aftermath and the debate. In the days that followed, questions arose within the United States itself. Was it necessary? Could Japan have surrendered without the bomb? Figures like Dwight D. Eisenhower and Admiral William Leahy later expressed moral doubts. Others, including Truman, argued the bombing saved countless lives by preventing a land invasion. Meanwhile, Tokyo, though spared the atomic flash, bore its own tragic scars. Rebuilt from the ashes of firebombing, it would emerge as a symbol of post-war resilience, while Hiroshima and Nagasaki became eternal reminders of humankind's most terrible invention. Epilogue: a world forever changed. In the end, Tokyo was not bombed because it had already been destroyed. But Hiroshima and Nagasaki were chosen not just for their military value, they were chosen as messages to the world. The atomic age was born not in Tokyo's ashes, but in Hiroshima's blinding light. And from that day forward, humanity lived under its shadow. Tokyo burned, Hiroshima vanished, Nagasaki followed. But the real target was not a city. It was the future of war itself.